Alright, how's it going, guys? It's time to take a dive into UFC 276 and do a little recap, and we'll do some matchmaking as well and take a look at what was an interesting card, an up and down card, stacked top to bottom, and we'll get into it. And if you're wondering who the fuck, why you would listen, who's this guy and why would I listen to him, hopefully this should alleviate your concerns. Look at that. That's right. In 2012, out of all the other kids at MD MMA, I was the most improved. So I showed the biggest leaps, the biggest gains in technique. Granted, I was 25 at the time, but I don't think that should take away, I'll be honest. So let's get into 276. Alright, first fight on the early prelims was Aussie girl Jessica Rose Clarke up against Julia Stoliarenko. And not a good result for Jess. Julia gets the armbar in less than a minute. But prior, Jess was looking good. She landed a big punch that rocked Julia, which is what forced the scramble to the ground, and she'll be disappointed at the result and disappointed at the mangled elbow that requires surgery now, unfortunately. But yeah, hopefully she takes some time off, recovers, learns a bit of grappling. She'll be back. She's tough. As for Julia, she's tough. She looked good. She got clipped by the punch from Jess, but as soon as it got to the ground, she snapped the submission up and she looked good doing it. So good on them. Prelim, we had Jessica I versus Maycee Barber. Maycee Barber gets the decision win and retires Jessica I. Congratulations to Jessica I on an amazing career. You know, she recently fought Valentina for the title and, you know, unfortunately became one of Valentina's top highlights in the old highlight reel, but she got there, she got to a UFC title fight. That's a huge accomplishment. Congratulations to Jessica on a great career. And Maycee Barber with a good win over a recent title challenger. That's not insignificant. With Maycee's had some hiccups. She came in guns a-blazing, claiming she'd be the youngest UFC champion in history, and obviously that hasn't panned out. So I think Maycee would be smart to take the Aaron Pico route. Take a step back. I know she's just beaten a recent title challenger. That's a good win. But I would take a step back, fight other contenders. I know the women's divisions aren't exactly stacked with people outside of the top 15, but try to fight some up and comers, some younger girls, and get that octagon experience and really go for that belt. Good work. Congrats to Maycee Barber. All right, next prelim, we had Uriah Hall versus Andre Muniz, and I am a big fan of Andre Muniz since he destroyed Jacare's arm, and which was just unbelievably impressive. So I'm a big fan of Andre, and Uriah, just got out grappled. He's a striker. It's, it happens. Andre just looked amazing. So let's have a look at what would be next for old Andre. And a bit of full disclosure, I've recorded this video already. So here in the old Matchmaker Tron 3000 version 1.03, I've already done a few matchups, but we'll go over them. It's pretty sophisticated technology. We should be able to move it around fairly easily. Now, what I thought would be a good fight next for Andre Muniz would be Jack Manson. Two grapplers. Jack's very experienced with tough competition. I think that coming off a loss from Sean Strickland, it could be a good fight for Jack to bounce back, or it could be a good fight for Andre to prove that he's ready for the next tier of competition at middleweight. But I think that would be a great fight for those guys. Next prelim, we had Brad Tavares versus Dricus du Plessis. And Dricus comes out with the decision win and looked pretty good doing so, you know. Brad Tavares is a veteran. He's been around forever. At least 2011, I believe he came in after The Ultimate Fighter. And, you know, famously, he's a bit of a stepping stone for the top tier of the middleweight division, but that shouldn't take away from how tough the guy is, how experienced he is. And it was a good win for Dricus, you know. To get a win over Brad Tavares is not insignificant. But so let's see what could be next for old Dricus. You know, I've put Edmund Shabazian and Uriah Hall here with him. I think those could be good matchups. Both Shabazian, while, you know, he's barely out of high school, but he is fairly experienced in the middleweight division, and Uriah is very experienced. And I think those guys would be a good test for du Plessis to see where he's at exactly. Or maybe even the Kelvin Gastelum fight, which was booked and Dricus called for after the fight. But, you know, I think the mile behind the lineup to fight Kelvin Gastelum's a mile long, so good luck with that. Next prelim, we had the young Irishman, Ian Garry, and I was skeptical of Ian Garry, I'll be honest. I thought it was the UFC trying to push another Irishman, another charismatic Irishman, but he seems legit, like the other charismatic Irishman. You know, he's got all the skills. Apparently there's no harder worker. He's working with the best fighters, best coaches in the world, and they all seem to have nothing but good things to say about old Ian Gaza. So, you know, he looked good. As DC said, he was fighting. You know, he fought Gabriel Green, and Gabriel was clearly outskilled in the contest, but he kept coming forward. He's a tough guy. Get a bit more technique, and I think he'd be a bit more formidable with that heart. But congratulations to Ian Garry. Looked good, but I don't want him to rush into the top 15. I don't think that would be smart for him. He's young. He's very young. Just take it slow. Get that experience. Get that octagon experience, and that'll serve you in the long term. So congratulations to Ian Garry. Next prelim, we had two absolute legends of the game. We had Jim Miller retiring Cowboy Cerrone. And congratulations to Cowboy. What a career. An absolutely legendary career. What can you say about him? Would fight anyone at any time. He got to the title. He, you know, famously, he'd be the first to tell you that he would choke in the big fights. And that was always unfortunate for Cowboy, because on his way up to those big fights, he looked absolutely sublime. He would just blow people out of the water. It looked amazing. And the amount of bonuses, the amount of bangers the bloke put on, that combo against Rick Story, oh, you know, absolutely legendary career. Congratulations to Donald Cerrone. Wish you all the best. And Jim Miller, you know, I predicted that this was how the fight would go down. Jim Miller's been looking very good while Cowboy hasn't. Jim's been, you know, he got clear of an illness, I believe. He said he'd never been able to fight to 100% previously in his UFC career. So yeah, once he got clear of the illness, that's helped a lot in his performances. So congratulations to Jim Miller. I think he's going to put more numbers on that all-time record, and hopefully it's a long time before anyone beats it. And two Hall of Famers, legendary. Congratulations to both. Now, in the last prelim, Jalin Turner. How about Jalin Turner? I mean, on the broadcast, I think he was the second 6'3" current lightweight currently competing. I don't know who the other one is offhand, I'll be honest. So, but if you're a 6'3" lightweight that's that big and strong, you're going to be a problem. And he proved that against Brad Riddell. You know, Brad Riddell's no slouch, incredibly tough guy, but Jalin looked amazing, and I am looking forward enormously to seeing who he'll be fighting. So let's take another look at the Matchmaker-tron. That's the middleweights. Get away from me. Here we go. Now, this is my top 15. So Jalin is down here, who he just made his debut today into the top 15. So congratulations to him. Now, lightweight is always clogged up. The title picture down to number 10 through 15. It's always stacked with killers. So it's going to be tough to get a matchup, especially looking as good as he has. So who do we see for Jalin? I mean, we could throw him. We could throw city kickboxing teammate of Brad, Riddell, old Dan Hooker, to the Wolves, and I think that would be a very bad night for Dan Hooker, and I think that would be a very good night for Jalin Turner. You know, Diego has just been ousted out of the rankings also, but that could be an interesting fight, even though I'm sure Jalin would want to fight someone in the rankings. Possibly the loser of Rafael Fiziev and RDA, that could be interesting. I wouldn't advise Jalin taking on Arman Tsarukyan. I don't think that would be a good fight for him yet, with how good Tsarukyan is. So there are a lot of interesting matchups for Jalin at lightweight. So let's see who the UFC puts him with, because I'm very excited to see this young bloke get in and amongst the title picture. That should be exciting. And our first fight on the main card. What a kick to the willy this one was. You know, neither looked like they were on fire, I'll be honest. You know, the first round was a lot of leg kicks from Pedro and not much else, which won him the round on 2 of the 3 judges' scorecards. And, you know, again, I think Sean was beginning to find his range, was beginning to find his timing, but that doesn't mean that a knockout was imminent or he was about to take over the fight completely, because Pedro's a veteran, a very tough veteran, and I don't like criticizing fighters, especially when it comes to something serious like an eye injury. But it looked like he didn't get poked, so I don't know what to make of that one. I'm not with the people saying he was looking for a way out, because, you know, why would Pedro Munoz? It's silly. It's silly. These are the toughest people in the world. They're not looking for a way out. So, you know, that's a rough one. It's unfortunate, because it would have given us a bit of clarity at 135 and where Sean O'Malley was heading. So it is disappointing. So we'll take a look. We'll take a look at the rankings. Now, for Sean O'Malley, there's a few lineups, a few matchups that could be interesting, you know. Ricky Simone could be an interesting one. A rematch with Cheeto Vera. I think Cheeto's looking ahead, not behind, so I don't think that one's likely yet. But the one that I'm most interested in is Adrian Yanez. I know he's not ranked yet, but he will be, because he's a killer. And that stylistically, that matchup could make for one of the most fun striking affairs ever in the bantamweight division. That could be an absolute scorcher. So if I'm booking these guys next, this is where I would be heading. You know, I've put Pedro with Song Yudong. Who knows? I don't think the UFC will try to match these guys up again, but we'll see. All right, next fight on the main card. We had a bit of a sad one. Look, I'll be honest, when and that finishing sequence where Bryan Barberena got the finish, I did want to jump in front of the punches to stop Robbie receiving them. It's sad to see Robbie get finished, but you know, the man's 40 years old. He debuted in the UFC 20 years ago in 2002. That's just absolutely incredible, frankly, that he's had this long of a career, took an 8-year break from the UFC, came back, became the champion, and an impressive champion, putting on some of the most famous fights in UFC history. You know, the fight Rory 2. Need I say more? I mean, one of the greatest fights in mixed martial arts history, and congratulations to Bryan Barberena on a big win. And in our next fight on the main card, we had one of the best game plans since BJ Penn versus Frankie Edgar 3, where BJ decided to come standing with his back straight. It was just a very strange game plan from Sean Strickland. I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know if it was pure arrogance. I don't know if he anticipated he would take Alex down before he could land a single strike. I don't know. It was baffling. I think it was Sean's arrogance that cost him, because I don't know if he just discounted Alex's striking. I don't know if he thought it wouldn't be an issue, he would grapple him. I don't know, but it was very weird, and you know, he deserved to get knocked out for how silly he fought. And you know, and congratulations to Alex Pereira, who in only an MMA type scenario is coming in to this fight unranked, facing the 4th ranked middleweight, knocking him out and becoming the #1 contender. So not a bad night at the office for old Alex, I'd say. So congratulations to Alex. He'll be fighting Israel for the belt next, and I'm looking forward to that. And I think he wins that. I hope he wins that. And for Sean Strickland, you know, he needs to lick his wounds and realise why he lost that fight the way that he did. And I think he'll be back better for it. He's tough. He's a good guy. He's very talented. He's experienced. I think this will help Sean. Hopefully. He doesn't seem to learn lessons, I'll be honest. So maybe a fight with Kelvin Gastelum, Jared Cannonier potentially could be what's next for old Shawnee Strickland. And the next fight is Volk versus Max, but I'm not going to do that because that deserves top billing. I'm going to do the absolute snooze fest that was Israel Adesanya defending his belt against Jared Cannonier, and yet another absolute stinker of a title defense, which you could predict before the fight even happened. Izzy would kick some legs, he would do just enough to prove that he's better than the other guy, and he'd get another ruby. You know, he's clearly the best. He's incredibly impressive, but he is not he's on his way to becoming the greatest middleweight of all time, yet he doesn't hold a candle to Anderson. I mean, Anderson had some brain farts. The Tellers Laters fight, the Damian Maia fight in Abu Dhabi, you know. Anderson had bad performances, but that was the rarity. The absolute stunning knockouts were far more common, and just the absolute dominance, the 11 title defenses, you know, the 6-7 years he held the belt. I just don't see that Israel touching that. Maybe in numbers he can touch Anderson, but in terms of heart and minds, I don't think he'll ever compete unless he starts putting on much more impressive performances, you know. I know people don't like that. I know people love Izzy. He's the highest paid fighter in the UFC, besides Conor. If you're getting that type of money and putting on those sorts of performances, it doesn't quite add up. It's, you know, and you can't follow up the greatest walkout of all time, carrying Jared's ashes, and then touch him 4 times around, you know. And a bit of a bias. I'm a bit of a Rob Whittaker fan, if you couldn't tell, and I do think Rob won their rematch, but it's close, and those can go either way, so I'm not bitter about that one, but... And I agree with Marvin Vettori. He might be the best, but at what? It's so boring. It's so boring. It's so boring. You know, congrats to Israel on defending and once again proving he's the best. Very boringly. And commiserations to Jared Cannonier. He'll be back. I mean, I don't think he'll be back in the title picture, but he'll be around to put some exciting fights on. Now we have the real main event. And we got to see the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world, Alexander Volkanovski, put on an absolute clinic against his closest rival in the featherweight division. And if that doesn't scare the rest of the featherweight division, then I don't know what will. Because what Volk did to Max is what Max does to every other featherweight. I mean, he's done it to every other featherweight except Volk. So for Volk to put on a performance like that against someone the caliber of Max Holloway, how you can deny Alexander Volkanovski the #1 pound-for-pound spot in the world, you know, I think that's foolish. Kamaru has earned that spot. Volk has just looked absolutely sublime. So, you know, I think he's slotted into that #1 spot. I think it's on Kamaru to take it back, which he could do by absolutely dominating Leon Edwards, which I expect him to do. But what is next for Volk is the $1 million question. Because most of the interest appears to be for Volk fighting for the 55 title. You know, while there is no 55 champ, there's... Look, Uriah Faber, in typical Uriah Faber fashion, was coming out and, you know, looking after a Team Alpha Male guy, which you have to commend him for. And he suggests that Volk takes on Josh Emmett while the lightweight title clears itself up. And look, I kind of agree with that. It looks like Volk's got a broken hand, which could keep him out for the rest of the year, which is unfortunate because I know Volk wants to be as active as he possibly can, which is what he's been most vocal about. And I think this could hold him out potentially for the rest of the year, which would be very unfortunate. But that would give the lightweight title time to clear itself up, for time at 45 to get a bit more clarity as well. It looks like Josh Emmett's the #1 contender. And, you know, does anyone think Josh Emmett can beat Volk? Like, Josh Emmett is a beast. Let's be real. He doesn't touch Volk. If Max Holloway gets treatment like that, you know, he just... Volk is on another level. He looks absolutely sublime right now. So, you know, I'm thinking a lightweight title fight versus the winner of Islam and Charles, if that's the way the UFC goes. But again, that still hasn't been signed yet either. So, double champ status looks almost inevitable for Volk at this point. He's the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world, and I believe he's starting to get that respect and get called the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world rightly. So Congratulations to Volk on becoming the best fighter on the planet. Mate, absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning. I was in awe. I was absolutely in awe watching that fight. I just could not believe how good Volk looked. Just so impressed. Mate, you're the best. And congratulations to everyone on UFC 276. And thanks for watching. I know this is a bit rough. It'll get better, I promise. But thanks for watching. But for me, the absolute biggest takeaway of UFC 276 was this.
Penn and the WWE team well represented tonight. Vince and Stephanie McMahon, Triple H.
The McMahons. Vince McMahon cage side at a UFC event. Why? How did it happen? This is the... Do you remember Uncle Chael told a story? Vince McMahon, after the Tough Boom, when the UFC was appearing as a real threat to the WWE in their pay-per-view market, Vince McMahon called Mike Goldberg and offered him 6 figures to no-show the UFC and then to come and work for the WWE. And Mike Goldberg turned it down. And that's the man that was sitting cage side. I think that's remarkable. You might not give a shit, but I'm an Attitude Era kid, and that was incredible to me. Thanks for watching.